Folks, the battle over voting continues. Today in Louisiana, Republican lawyers went before the federal bench, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, asking or arguing if the state must follow Alabama's court-ordered path in drawing a primarily new black congressional district. The questioning also was about how quickly they could get this done before the 2024 election. Louisiana is one of many states still battling over congressional districts after the U.S. Supreme Court ruled Alabama violated the Voting Rights Act when its Republican legislature failed to create a second black majority congressional district when it redrew the state's congressional map after the 2020 census. Joining me now is Cliff Albright, co-founder of Black Voters Matter. Cliff, glad to have you on the show. All right, Cliff, here's what is bogus, what is absolutely bogus from these Republicans. Last year, they drew the congressional lines, all right? What then happened was they were drawn enough in time that the federal courts ruled if they violated the Voting Rights Act. There was enough time actually to change it before the 2022 midterm elections. They didn't happen. So what then happened was the Supreme Court said, hold up, leave the lines places in line. Republicans got control of the House. Now they're trying to say we don't have enough time. It's 2 years later. This is BS.
Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right, Roland. What they did the last time was that they had all these cases. You know, you had the Alabama cases, you had the Louisiana case, you got cases from Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, and they held off on ruling on any of them, including Milligan, which they eventually ruled on this year, saying, oh, yeah, now that we looked at it, you know what, it was racist and black folks deserve another district. And that decision really impacts all of these other cases where the facts are very much the same. The situation in Louisiana is almost identical to Alabama. In Alabama, you had black folks only having 1 out of 7 districts, even though we are 30% of the population. And in Louisiana, we're even bigger part of the population as 1 out of 6 districts. And so it's really the same thing. Essentially, as you just said, what the Supreme Court did by pushing it off and waiting was saying, you know what, even though we know that these districts are racist and that they violate the Voting Rights Act, we're not going to do anything. So we're going to let a whole midterm election go by. And literally the control of Congress was really decided just on the back of voter suppression and racially gerrymandered districts. So here comes Louisiana now. And this is why we told people, Roland, you may remember, and I think you were understanding at the time too, when the Supreme Court decided to send the case back to Louisiana. Many people thought that was a victory. They thought that it automatically meant that Louisiana would have to follow what the Alabama case went, right? And that would seem to be the common sense interpretation. But in reality, what they did was they sent it back for this question of, oh, do we now have to go through the full process of arguing this case at the appeals court? And so even though you would think that automatically it meant that the Louisiana case would have to go by the lower court and give the extra black district, we knew that there was the possibility for some shenanigans. This circuit, this Fifth Circuit in Louisiana, they're wrong for even entertaining this. They didn't even have to entertain this. They didn't even have to have a hearing about this week. They just could have squashed it and be like, nah, you know, the lower court has spoken, Supreme Court has spoken, you need to do an extra black district. But as soon as they even granted this hearing for them to even argue this, we knew that there was some shenanigans. And this is what our concern was going back to when they first decided that case a couple of months ago.
And again, for people who don't understand, the courts ruled in enough time. I mean, if I remember, they ruled in early 2022. Before the primaries. Right. Louisiana's primaries are in the late year. They're in August, and then the general election is actually in November. There was more than enough time, but they were like, no, let's hold it. So I'm not buying this. Oh, I don't know if we're gonna have enough time to redraw these lines. Well, the legislature had more than enough time to fix the crap from last time. No, what they're trying to do is run out the clock, hoping at the court that they will get another attempt to freeze it in line to guarantee another black district is not created for another 2 years.
Right. And that hope is really based on concrete experience, because that is what often happens. We are often put in a situation where we have districts that we know are racist, that everybody and mama knows is racist, but they go through one cycle using it. Then they go through another cycle using it. And we're in this perpetual situation of, well, where's the justice, right? Justice delayed is, in fact, sometimes justice denied. And so that's what they're trying to do. In fact, they look like they got called out a little bit by this appeals court, because they were basically, like you're saying, they were saying, oh, we want to have the full case relitigated. We want to have a full hearing, right? It's that important. But then when they're asked, well, how soon could this take and how much time? Then they start going, oh, well, I think, we could have the case actually be argued like sometime next year. And the judges tell them, well, you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't act like this is urgent and then be like, oh, but we're cool waiting. We're cool waiting another 6 or 7 months before we actually get a hearing. So, yes, you are absolutely right. This is all a part of the games that they're playing. They're playing the game in Alabama. They're playing games in Louisiana. They're playing games in Florida. They're playing games in South Carolina. But the reason that they're playing these games, we got to be clear, is because these games have succeeded in the past, and we found ourselves arguing a righteous case, a legal case, a case that would ultimately be proven to be on our side. But in the meantime, we've lost power. We've gone through 1 cycle, 2 cycles, 3 cycles with bogus, racist districts, and that's what Louisiana is betting on right now. They're playing games.
But what gets me for the Fifth Circuit, why is there a need for a full trial? This already went through a full trial.
Right. Exactly. It's already gone through a full trial at the district level, the first court level, and they were told it's racist, do another district. The same way that Alabama was told it's racist, do another black district. The Supreme Court has spoken on it in the Alabama Milligan case. It's racist, give them another district. And so there's no need to have a full hearing on this. The only reason you'd even be trying to get a full hearing, if all you're trying to do is run out the clock, or just waiting and hoping that maybe you could just stretch it out and get it back to the Supreme Court, and that maybe they'll flip again, right? That maybe they'll actually do this time what everybody thought they were going to do with the Milligan case in Alabama. And so either way, they're playing games, and we do not need to have another full trial on something that's already been litigated. And that is quite clear. I mean, even common sense tells you how you got 33% of the population and we got 1 out of 6 seats. That means 33% of the population has 16% of the seats. Like, this is clear cut. This is, no pun intended, but it's black and white. And so, again, they are playing games, but they're playing these games because these games have worked in the past. And we are just here to tell them that the games aren't working this time, that we're on to your games, we're on to your tricks, and that we're going to stay on this. And we are going to get the power and the representation and the district that we deserve in Louisiana and all these other states.
But while we're talking about that, tomorrow's the last day of early voting. And earlier this week, Gary Chambers put a video out. And Cliff, the numbers are abysmal of black folks showing up to vote early in Louisiana. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it really is. And, and there are reasons for that. Some of it deals with the voter suppression that we see in the state. Some of it just deals with the lack of resources out there that's out there in order to mobilize our voters. We know that our dear friends at the Power Coalition, which is one of the plaintiffs in this legal case, right? Which, again, is part of the reason why they do this. They do these tricks because they know that anytime it takes our time to have to litigate this, to have to sue them, right, to have to explain stuff to our voters, that's less time we have to actually mobilize and get our folks to turn out. So there are lots of reasons for it, including the lack of resources that's in the state. I've been singing this tune all year long. Look, Roland, we got 3 gubernatorial races in the South this year. Like right now, Louisiana, Mississippi, right, where there's a real chance for black folks to come out in large numbers and shock the country. I've been telling people this for 6 months. And in Kentucky, which, like Louisiana, already has a Democratic governor, and you got critical issues at play in Kentucky, including Cameron, the attorney general who refused to prosecute cops that killed Breonna Taylor. He is running for governor in Kentucky. So we got 3 critical Southern gubernatorial races, and it has been hard to get people to pay attention to them and support them and invest in the groups that are trying to mobilize voters to come out, particularly black voters. And so we need more people like you. You do it, but the rest of this country has not been paying attention to these critical races that are going on, where we have an opportunity to expand our power and to get action on the issues that we care about, right? Healthcare, right? In Mississippi, Medicaid expansion and rural hospitals. Mississippi has one of the highest sales taxes on food in the state of Mississippi, 7%, Roland. These are the issues that we have a chance to make some serious advances on if we get support for mobilizing black voters in these states. And it just hasn't been happening.
All right, Cliff Albright, Black Voters Matter. I always appreciate it, man. Thanks a lot.
All right.
And I did get my dashiki. I got the dashiki.
You got it. All right.
Yeah, I wore it on the air Monday. So I got the Black Voters Matter dashiki.
All right,
I appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Get it to you.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Folks, going to go to a break. We come back. We'll bring in our panel. All right, folks, let's bring in our panel. Joining us right now is Matt Manning, civil rights attorney out of Corpus Christi. Matt coming in with the funky background. Go full screen. So, Matt, where you in? A studio or something? Recording studio? No, go full screen on Matt. What you doing?
No, I'm in the valley. I had a hearing down here, so I'm at the bottom of the map, and I wanted to make sure I honored my commitment to be with you, brother, so I'm here from my colleague's office.
Y'all, so do this here. Send Matt our logo, so when he got TV, he can throw the logo in the background so he can look real official.
No doubt. Thank you.
Keller with their communications strategist out of D.C., Michael Imhotep, host African History Network show out of Detroit. Glad to have all three of y'all here. Matt, I'll start with you. It's the sheer BS of Republicans. I mean, they draw the lines in 2022. Courts say, y'all screwing black people. That was way more than enough time to redraw them. The Supreme Court's like, no, freeze everything in line. Now we're in 2023. They're like, yeah, we don't know if we can have enough time to redraw them. It's just, dude, it's October. The primary, it's like, y'all stop it. Just stop it. But this is what white Republicans are doing. Alabama, Louisiana, Florida, Georgia, all of these, Texas, all of these places to screw over black voters.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And on top of that, what's interesting about it is it's kind of along the lines of a lot of the states' rights stuff that you hear. I mean, you're starting to hear that they are, or see rather, that they're just completely eschewing what the federal courts say. The Supreme Court has made a decision. You would think that they would honor that. But this made me think kind of Brown v. Board of Education, right? The fact that we had to have two Browns for them to say, hey, you need to implement what we told you to do. And it's the same idea here, with the exception that you have the Alabama court and then the other case. And in this case, the Louisiana officials just saying we're not going to abide by it. And here, obviously, what they're doing is changing, moving the goalpost relative to whatever their goal is at that time. But as Cliff alluded to earlier, and as you've always said, this is a matter of divesting black people of power, period, right? Because if it were really about the speed with which the maps were redrawn and adopted, then we wouldn't have this issue. They could have been done a lot faster. But when your goal is to take the power away from the people and not create a new district, you're going to do whatever you can to delay that. And that's precisely what you're seeing here.
And the thing here, Kelly, they don't care. All of these so-called law and order people, they are purposely saying, the hell with the courts. If we don't like the ruling, we're going to ignore them.
Well, the thing about these people who are so law and order oriented is that it's not about law and order that they want to abide by. It's law and order that they want to impose on others so that they can preserve their power. That's really all the law and order is about in this regard. So it doesn't surprise me, the hypocrisy. It doesn't surprise me, the hubris, that they are dragging their feet on this issue, that they are so afraid of losing, that they are frankly fighting a losing battle, again, because of their hubris and their blatant racism and their innate desire to stay in power. So like the person before us said, it is ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous. And, it's just indicating just how much of a losing battle that they have.
Check this out, Michael. So go to my iPad. This is the Washington Post story. Ohio's GOP supermajority tests limits of democracy before abortion vote. Look at this here. they literally have been ignoring the directives of everyone. Even when you read this story, look at this here. Republican leaders here repeatedly defied directives from the state's highest court to fix gerrymandered electoral maps, leaving the process in chaos and residents voting in districts with unconstitutional boundaries. They enacted more restrictive voter laws that hurt younger, less affluent Ohioans. And now they're attempting to strip the state school board of its powers after Democrats gained control in last November's election. This is what they do. This is what they do.
Yes.
They literally are saying, and we see this in North Carolina, in Wisconsin, their dealers like, okay, voters, y'all decided? Nah, we're stripping powers. And then for them, how do you ignore your state Supreme Court? Yeah, no, we're not doing that. We're not redrawing lines. But that's what Alabama tried with the Supreme Court.
Well, yeah, Roland, once again, this is white supremacy rearing its ugly head. And the states that you mentioned a few minutes ago, Alabama, Texas, Louisiana, I can't remember if you said Florida or not, but all of those states are former Confederate states. And when you go back and look at their constitution, their state constitutions, and I wish Cliff was here because I had a question for him. When we look at the Alabama state constitution in 1901, it was written primarily to codify white supremacy. That's not me saying that. That's the Encyclopedia of Alabama says that when they talk about the 1901 state constitution, which imposed poll taxes and literacy tests. When we look at this right here, this is a fight for raw naked power. And Democracy Docket had an article that talked about the gerrymandering that took place with the maps for the 2022 midterm elections. And Republicans basically won because of those gerrymandered districts and Democrats, including especially with Alabama. OK, here you have African Americans who are 27% of the population in Alabama, but they only have one majority black district. So this is a fight for raw naked power. I think was extremely important in places like Louisiana, in places like Alabama, is to connect policies to who's in office, to how it's impacting African Americans, their conditions, lowest in education, high poverty rates, high incarceration rates. Directly connect that to who's in office, to the policies that they put in place, to how it's negatively impacting African Americans, to show them why we have to vote and vote continuously and vote these people out of office.
And see, Matt, this is my deal, and I make it perfectly clear. I don't care what anybody has to say. This is why I will not support any Republican. I don't care who you are, because what they are trying to do is literally destroy the will of the people. Hell, where Michael is in Michigan, the voters there created a commission to redraw lines. You know what these fools said? Yeah, we're just going to ignore that. I mean, they literally are in Ohio. They tried to change. They wanted to try to raise the number to 60% for a statewide amendment because they saw what was coming when it came to abortion. They spent $54 million trying to stop the special election. Then they called a special session to stop the initiative before even there was the election. These people will do anything to thwart democracy. And what pisses me off, what's pissing me off in Louisiana, is we're not voting, so therefore we're making it easier for them to do what they do. And I see you change your background. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to change it again to do a logo, but I got you. But in any event, you're exactly right. And again, it's a matter of moving goalposts, and beyond just moving goalposts. What's particularly problematic is, they're a lot of times the ones who try to quote, the will of the people. If you look in Ohio, if I remember correctly, they had an election and the people denied, or rather shot down, that constitutional amendment they sought. So, at some point you have to live by the edicts that you're calling on your own. And I think that this is really indicative of this crisis in representative democracy that we see. We see politicians who are making decisions that are expeditious for them and their political careers, and not particularly for their constituents, nor for the will of the good, if you will, the good of the people. So that doesn't surprise me. And I think it's really an astute point to mention that you can't support any Republican, because the Republican Party these days is eating itself alive and is getting further and further out into the extremes. And you have no credibility if you continue to carry that GOP banner watching the direct assaults on democracy and freedom that their party is espousing these days.
The thing here that is crazy to me, Kelly and then Michael, is that, again, when you look at what's happening, Republicans in North Carolina are trying to pass a bill that will exempt them from making any of their records and their staff public. Now, it applies to everybody else in the state, but not the Republican legislature. Kelly?
When you have a situation in which you know you are losing, I don't know anybody who knows they are losing who still plays by those rules. They will do anything they possibly can to make the game in their favor and hope out for a win. The same principle applies here. It is not that Republicans don't know what the rules are. It is not even that Republicans weren't in the room when the rules were made. The problem is they are losing because they have siloed themselves into this very narrow path of white supremacy, of racism, of bigotry, of elitism, of superiority, that they have shrunk themselves in their ideology to the point where they can't branch out for fear of them, again, losing. So what do? You change the rules of the game, or frankly, like you just said in North Carolina, ignore the rules of the game. It doesn't apply to me because I'm losing. What does it matter? So again, like I said before, nothing here surprises me. It's just a matter of what are Democrats going to do about it? What are progressives going to do about it? When we have the rule book, when we know what they're going to do, when we have a history of what they have done, what are we going to do in terms of leveraging this information to make sure that Republicans don't repeat a win by way of cheating?
But go to my iPad, Michael. This is from, again, the Washington Post article. Though voters in 2015 and 2018 approved constitutional amendments designed to make the process of drawing districts for both the legislature and Congress more fair, the 2001 redistricting committee process erupted in chaos when the GOP-led redistricting commission repeatedly pressed forward with state legislative maps found to be unconstitutional by the state Supreme Court. They don't care. They don't give a damn. These people have to be stopped.
Absolutely. They have to be stopped in the North. They have to be stopped in the South. They have to be stopped out West. They have to be stopped in the East. White supremacy is white supremacy. I don't care where it is geographically. And then when I was looking at the article from National Public Radio dealing with North Carolina legislatures criticized for exempting itself from public records law, it seems like they think some type of lawsuit or investigation may be coming. And they're trying to protect themselves from this, the North Carolina state legislature. So this is why, people have to understand that politics is the legal distribution of scarce wealth, power, and resources, and impacts every aspect of our lives. And, the conversation you had talking about Gary Chambers, conversation you had with Cliff Albright, the reason why many of our people don't fight back is because many of our people, unfortunately, don't think that we're fighting for. OK, when you've been dehumanized, when you listen to music that calls you an N-word and B's and H's, things like this, you will internalize that and think that you don't deserve anything better. So we have to understand that these people work for us. We have the ability to fire them. We deserve better. OK, and we have to continue fighting till we win.
Last point, folks, go to my iPad again. So this is what Republicans did in Ohio. And I'm trying to tell you. This is Ohio. This is Texas. This is Florida. This is all across this country. In 2001, GOP leaders passed a law making appellate and Supreme Court races partisan for the first time in more than a century. Guess what happened? Those Republicans took control of the state Supreme Court. They threw out lawsuits challenging those state lines. Well, guess what? Now you have a former Supreme Court Chief Justice in Ohio, Maureen O'Connor. She's now leading an effort to put a constitutional amendment on the ballot in 2024 requiring a citizen-led commission to draw future maps. They're going to do everything they can to stop all of this. And so we have to understand how to use our power.
Hopefully you learned a lot today. And be sure to register for the online history classes that I teach on Saturdays and Sundays. Saturdays, normally 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I teach ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. Visit our website, theafricanhistorynetwork.com, theafricanhistorynetwork.com, to register for the online classes. And right on the homepage, scroll down, you see information about our radio show. We're on Sundays, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We broadcast on our social media platforms. My class is Ancient Kemet, one of the original names for Egypt, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. We deal with thousands of years of history and what leads up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place, okay? So you can join us Saturday, October 7th and 14th. And 21st and 28th, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have a couple of videos here you can watch as well. To the previews. The class is on sale $80, regularly $130. We do the sessions live. All the sessions are archived and recorded. Actually, we dropped the price to $60. So on sale $60, regularly $130. We do the sessions live. All the sessions are archived and recorded. You can go back and watch them anytime. Okay. So even after the class is over with, you still have access. So a year from now, 2 years from now, you can go back and watch the entire course. Sundays, I teach Black resistance movements from the Haitian Revolution, U.S. Civil War, Civil Rights Movement, and Black Power Movement, 1800 to 1968. So we're going to have another session of this class coming up October 14th. Okay. Sunday, October 15th. We'll have another session of this class coming up Sunday, October 15th. So as soon as you register, you can go watch the previous classes. This class is on sale $40. As soon as you register, you can go back and watch the previous classes, and you'll be ready to join us Sunday, October 15th. Also, if you'd like to stop for information, you can support the African History Network, $ the AHN show through Cash App. $ the AHN show through Cash App, also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN show. This helps us keep doing the research, stay on the air, keep broadcasting, pay some of the bills. All right, we have to get out of here. Remember, right now, it's correct wrong behavior is not over till we win Wakanda forever. And we'll talk to you next time. Peace.
Is your child struggling with reading, writing, learning loss, and a culturally irrelevant curriculum? Do you want your child to be outstanding at reading and writing and also take pride in their culture? Then you want Reading Revolution Online. Reading Revolution Online is a web-based reading support program. We serve scholars in grades K through 8, and through our innovative approach, we help them build reading confidence and cultural identity development, equipping them for success in school and life. They learn about Black heroes and sheroes through captioned videos, reading selections, and other activities. Reading Revolution Online is an experience for the whole family. Do it for the culture. Go to readingrevolution.org and get your membership today.